Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. All right, first and foremost, I would like to ask the opposition, what exactly is their case basing on? Because from the first part of the debating on the opposition side, we've been hearing quite a number of things that were being talked about. They were literally basing the whole debating on issues like Chiazwa, which is the point that they had taken from the opening government, right? They only based the whole argument be as if the whole debating is about Chiazwa. Ladies and gentlemen, we have more than enough to talk about in this debate, right? So yeah, I'll start by talking to the member of opposition who came up here and he told us different things about most of the land lying idle. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that if they don't know that the land has more use that is reserved for, it doesn't necessarily mean it is idle, right? Most of the land that you see that is not being used these days or that you have seen is probably because it had not been fruitful for farming purposes or maybe for mining purposes. Henceforth, it is being taken care of maybe to save for residential purposes. So you can't really say there is mismanagement of land, right? And then what is land owning really, ladies and gentlemen? This is a question that I'm posing to the opposition. What is land owning when you don't have full right to take care of the land? Whatever that is in the land, I believe that it should be owned by the landowner. Why? Simply because of some of the points that have been introduced by my member of government when he came up and said there is inconveniencing of the practice that will be ongoing at the very moment, right? We look at the things like if people are going to be given the land, right, and then somebody will come up and say, no, you're farming here, but then there are demos that are coming up, right? How can that not inconvenience the person that would have farmed maybe 3,000 acres of tobacco? There is inconveniencing that will be taking place. So we truly believe that whoever should be having the right on the land should have total or full ownership of it, right? So we also talk about the opportunity of conflict of interest, right? We believe that such things are more at risk and they can happen each and every time, right? But then we are saying as the government, we're trying to really avoid such things from taking place. So what do? We give title deeds to the landowners so that the full ownership of the land belongs to the person that would have bought the land or would have paid for it, right? We are saying that at an economic standpoint, right, everybody in the nation ends up benefiting. How? This is so because my member of government talked about contracting, right? Which is something that they've been saying that the government only benefits, but then the people don't benefit. We are saying that we can contract anyone, right? Everybody who has the capability to be working on the same land can also come and approach, and then we give them the right to contract and do whatever they feel that they should do, right? So we believe and say as the government, everybody can benefit as long as they know how to utilize what they have, right? We also want to talk about the point that they have been saying, we exploit, as the government, we exploit the resources that will be on the land, right? We believe that there is no exploitation of the land, right? Because they say the richer will become richer and the poor will become poor. In what way? When we are simply saying that we have a lot of people that may even mine as a private sector, right? But when they do their exports, how do they do it? Do they do it in their bedrooms? No, they still do it through the government, right? So we believe that everybody benefits at the end of the day. All right, I still believe that, I personally feel it as unfair when people say that the landowners should not have full right over the natural resources. This is more like somebody getting married to a wife and then in the next minute they're being told that you can have a cook for you, you can have a wash for you, an iron for you, but you cannot have a make babies for you. Then what is the point of getting married to that person? So I still believe it is still the same thing that I believe that the opposition does not really take a look at. They are not believing that the rightful ownership of the land is very important. Henceforth, it will increase the rate of management. People don't really care about the things that they don't fully own. That is one true fact. We may ignore it, but it is one important thing, right? You cannot take care of something that you don't even know that it is not yours. The next day you wake up in the morning, they can tell you that the land is no longer yours. So why then take full responsibility of it? You can only manage something very well when you know it is yours, right? Talking about transparency and efficiency, right? We say that there is more efficiency and there is more transparency, right? When we talked about the sustainable development goals, right? We need to meet those, right? So that's when my member of government came up with the sustainable development approach, right? When he said that there is need for transparency to be taking place. So how do we do this? People get to be responsible for their things. They talked about land degradation, the opening opposition, right? They said there will be land degradation and there will be no one to stand in for it. But if somebody has full ownership of something, then it's so hard to just point that you have been taking care of this place, so you are responsible for everything that will happen to it. It is easier that way. And unless if you're telling me that if people are going to be sharing, then at the end of the day, there won't be really time to see who really made the wrong move on the same ground, right? So we need to look at also other things like avoid double ownership, right? We might believe that if there is another company that will be mining and another company that will be wanting to farm on the same place, right? We want to avoid ownership, double ownership of those things, right? Because if somebody wakes up the next day, let's say there is a belt of diamond that has been realized in probably an area, right? If somebody doesn't really know, or if somebody has already planted their own seeds of a certain crop, they won't have to uproot them so that somebody can start mining. No, we're saying that we want to avoid such inconveniences from taking place. Henceforth, people should be given full right of a land or of a certain place so that they make full use of it. I believe that nations are very big and there are many places out there. And besides the contracts that are given, people write down and they work on contracts, right? So if probably you have a contract for 90 years, after that 90 years, if you really want that place, you can always go and take it. Wait for that person to finish. Not for you to say, as long as you're owning the land, probably I'll have to own it in some other way, in a mining aspect, or probably in another way, right? So we believe that as the government, to avoid inconveniences, to avoid manipulation of resources, to avoid lack of transparency, we believe that each and every person that owns the land should have full rights over it. That is why in the first place people are given title deeds. What do title deeds mean? It means you have the full right to everything that you would have purchased, right? So if you don't get the full rights to it, then what is the point of you taking out money and paying for something that you don't really get, right? To close the debate, right, I'll talk about what the OG said. They talked about the store of value that is the land, right? We're saying that as long as you're not utilizing the value in that specific area, right, you don't get to see the outcome of it simply because you know that you're sharing with somebody. Then at the end of the day, when I buy the land, everything in it should be mine, simply because I have all it takes and I have competed really to get it all. Ladies and gentlemen, we still believe as the government that everything that is under the land ownership should rightfully be mine. Thank you.
Okay, POSB, we have to agree on something. Whoever wins this debate will then determine what will happen to the 200 million that will miraculously appear in my account. Can we agree on that? Chief Whip, could you whip up this debate?
Ladies and gentlemen, facts are stubborn. Therefore, we need to ponder over them before releasing them to a vast innocent crowd. Now, I have seen in this debate, there has been a misconception. One misconception, which is, what is a landowner? Now, from the opposition, from the government, what they were saying that a landowner is someone who has a title deed over the land. That's one. Now, that's a parameter in which was set in this debate already. Now, going into the points in which were actually said by the government member, he said, and I quote, there was a government project in which was given to the community, and the community at the end of the day, they actually benefited. Now, this is a contradiction to what they were actually preaching in front of us. They were saying that the landowner will actually have ownership of the resources. After having ownership of the resources, what happens to those resources is his or her own what things. Therefore, at the end of the day, here what we are saying, we have to understand the extension in which we gave in this debate. The extension which states that there is a communist idea. The communist idea is whereby each and every person will actually benefit from the natural resources in which we are actually having in this. Now, I'm going to crash the government side by only asking two questions in which I will actually answer in this debate. What are natural resources? Now, as my opposition member said, natural resources are not only the minerals in which we're actually being pondered over by the government side, but there are certain natural resources in which we need to put into consideration. For example, we've got dams, ladies and gentlemen. From dams, we've got animals, ladies and gentlemen. These are the natural resources in which we are actually talking about in this debate. Now, at the end of the day, we see that we were talking about the Victoria Falls issue, ladies and gentlemen, whereby if it is actually personalized by one person, we see that there is mismanagement of the resources. Because at the end of the day, what are we seeing? That we are saying that if that person wakes up today and tells you that I don't want this natural resource, I don't want this to be opened, no one will open. And then at the end of the day, we'll actually tell our children that there is a mythical place called Victoria Falls, just because the owner of Victoria Falls doesn't want to make it open to other people. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are actually saying, as the opposition side, we are saying that we are not taking the land from the people. No, the land is theirs, we understand. Let them keep their land, but let us communalize the natural resources in which are in the area, because at the end of the day, we want the economy, we want the people to benefit. Now, they were talking about the government owning the resources, and at the end of the day, the communities will not benefit from this. Now, what are we saying as a closing government? As an opposition, we are saying that we are not going to give it to the government, no. But what we are doing is that we have the community on the land and the resources in which are there. And at the end of the day, they will see how fit they can actually use the resources in that community or in that area. The land is actually being used by the owner, yes, we understand, but the resources are for the community. Let me give you an example, right? There is a dam in my land, and then that dam can actually help a lot of people in that community. And then I am the owner of that dam, and then I wake up and say that I don't want my dam to be used by other people. Now, let's take for instance, it is actually a village area. There are certain people in which are benefiting from that dam, because the cattle in that area want to drink water from that very same dam. And then we'll see that at the end of the day, there are certain people in which who need to benefit from these natural resources in which we are actually talking about. Therefore, personalizing things will actually not benefit the community, but it will benefit one person. Going further, ladies and gentlemen, about the Chiadzwa issue. We understand it is an issue and it is a case study in which it happened in our country. The commodity, the minerals in which were there, they were actually being taken by the people. We understand. But as a closing opposition, what are we saying? Now we have seen that it is a tried phenomenon whereby the government took the mineral resources and then there were funds in which disappeared and nobody benefited from that. But now, ladies and gentlemen, let us now give it to the community, because they already gave us a case study of things that worked in which were handled by the community. Because at the end of the day, according to the closing government, they said the community, as long as they have ownership, they will benefit and they will actually utilize the resources. Now, on this, we can see that if we take the Chiadzwa issue and then the community, the people in that area benefit by them having the sense of ownership taken.
You are saying so the government has to run the resources on behalf of the community, right? Our government, for example, here in Zimbabwe,
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, listening is a virtue. Therefore, we need to listen very carefully when someone is releasing facts to the audience. Now, I was not saying, as I was saying in my speech, I was not saying the government should take responsibility of the resources. No, but what I'm saying, basing on the case study in which we were given by the closing government, it states that the community takes responsibility of the resources in that area. At the end of the day, we'll see that the people will actually benefit more. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to cement our arguments as the closing government. As the closing government, what are we saying? Let us use the communist idea whereby each and every person in that area will actually benefit from the natural resources. What are we saying? We are saying that let them keep their lands, but let us communalize the natural resources in that area so that each and every person in that area will benefit. We do not want to have mythical natural resources in which we actually tell our kids that there was once a place called Victoria Falls. Just due to mismanagement of resources in that area, we no longer have that resources, because it is actually happening very in our country right now. It is happening, and therefore at the end of the day, if we leave one person to actually personally own that natural resource, at the end of the day we see that we have a mythical resource in which we actually tell our kids. Going further, there is exploitation of the poor. As they were talking about the contracting, ladies and gentlemen, they're contracting. There are people who are coming to mine for them, on behalf of them, but who's benefiting at the end of the day? Ladies and gentlemen, with this, I thank you.
Thank you, debaters. Please cross the floor and shake hands. How many would agree with me that debate was whipped up really good? That's the best you're going to give. Okay, that's interesting, because I can say that most of you in here are going to be millionaires. And you know, we're going to be millionaires from our hustles. And you know, the hustles are most probably informal. Now, do you want POSB to come questioning you like, where did you get that 200 million? Come on, guys. Got more life than that. Okay, let's give something a bit more practical. Let's say you're the government. Would you like to know what's in my cup? Yeah. Yes. Would you like to know? Yes. Who would like to know? Who would like to know? Okay. Would you please help me just pick just one out of my cup? Thank you. And yes, I was willing. Okay, so I'm going to announce the next motion for the next debate and the teams and their positions. So I'll start with the teams. The teams in the next round: opening government is Bindura University, opening opposition, Lupane State University, closing government, Africa University, and closing opposition, University of Zimbabwe. Did you get that? This motion, I'm going to be very slow reading out the motion because it has an info slide. So could you please pay attention? Okay, so my info slide reads, microfinance refers to small, long-term loans with no or extremely low interest rates provided to individuals who seek to start a business. The motion. Should I repeat? Yeah. Okay. My info slide reads, okay. Microfinance refers to small, long-term loans with no or extremely low interest rates provided to individuals who seek to start a business. Was that clear? Okay. And the motion reads, this House believes that microfinance organizations, including but not limited to NGOs, charities, and development banks, should offer microfinance loans in developing nations exclusively to women. I'm going to read the motion again. This House believes that microfinance organizations, including but not limited to NGOs, charities, and development banks, should offer microfinance loans in developing nations exclusively to women. Okay, I'm going to repeat that again, both the info slide and the motion in what I would call my news reading voice. The info slide. Microfinance refers to small, long-term loans with no or extremely low interest rates provided to individuals who seek to start a business. Now, the motion. This House believes that microfinance organizations, including but not limited to NGOs, charities, and development banks, should offer microfinance loans in developing nations exclusively to women. The motion read loudly to you by Mutsa Sosu.
I'm the one who took your pen.
No, I'm not even looking for a pen. I'm looking for a socket.
A socket. There's no socket. Oh.
I take such comments with chocolates. Chocolates. That is our Good afternoon, everyone. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Can I please have your attention? Hello.
Hello.
I see some people there are enjoying their juice. Okay, I'm going to announce the results for the round I was in here. It was such an interesting debate, and I'm sure everyone here learned one or two things, right? But unfortunately, in every competition, we have to have a winner, and we have to have a lesser winner, right? We're all winners. Is that true? We're all winners, right? So, we had 4 teams up front. On position 4, it was a unanimous decision. I think that's a good thing. We had a unanimous decision on opening opposition. On team number 3, we had closing opposition. On team number 2, we had OG, opening government, meaning that our winners for the first debate were CG, closing government. Can we give them a round of applause? Unfortunately, due to time, I can't give detailed feedback, but I'm kindly asking all the speakers who were speaking in the previous round to see either myself or Richard or Mem Jaricha, all the adjudicators who were sitting up front. Please come to us for personal feedback so that we get to tell you where you went wrong or what you did right or where you can even improve. Thank you very much. For the second round, can all the participating teams please come to your respective places? Opening government between Bindura University, opening opposition, Lupani State University, closing government, Africa Uni, and closing opposition, University of Zimbabwe. Could you please come to your respective places? The debate will start in exactly 60 seconds.
We love your work.
Can we have OG?
Oh, so we should be the other side.
Yeah, OG, OO, CG, CO. Sorry about that. CG next. OG, OO, CG.
Wow, this Wi-Fi is ridiculous. What? Take a look at what?
Prime Minister, would you please open up the debate for us?
Honorable judges and the audience, this is the Prime Minister, and we are supporting the motion that this House support that microfinance play an important role in ensuring, in providing microfinance, in providing loans to exclusively to women. As the Prime Minister, we agree that we want to start by defining the term, simplifying the term microfinance. Microfinance is one of the pillars of financial inclusion. Microfinance specifically focuses on providing affordable loans to individuals. And as the government, we believe that since women, they constitute a larger percentage of the adult population in Zimbabwe, so we believe that if those women are saved in terms of providing access to loans and funds, then tapping into that segregated population would ensure enhanced financial inclusion. And I want to define financial inclusion. Financial inclusion is the effective usage and access to financial products and services provided by formal institutions. In this context, in this regard, as the Prime Minister, we believe that as the government, if we focus attention encouraging microfinance to provide affordable and accessible loans, this will ensure that young women, this will ensure that women who are financially excluded will be able to play a role in the national prosperity of the country. Microfinance institutions, these do not only have the jurisdiction or the sole right to provide of providing accessible loans to women. Non-governmental organizations, charities, and development banks, they are also key in ensuring that women are catered for. The problem that we are trying to counter, and the problem that we have seen as the Prime Minister, we have identified that most women are financially excluded, and most women, they lack access to funds, and most women, they do not have bank accounts and what, since the interests that are provided by the interests that are provided by banks, they are quite high. So therefore, by encouraging and empowering these microfinance institutions, this will enable the government to ensure that a wider number of women in Zimbabwe, across Zimbabwe, so around the globe, we have seen that governments have shifted the decision-making power of their citizens to private individuals in a way to ensure that, in this case, women will be able to participate in the economic growth of a country. They will be able to save, they will be able to invest, since they will access funds at affordable prices from these microfinance institutions and other charity banks and development banks. And this will ensure that the standard of living of women in Zimbabwe is upheld, and will ensure that women, they will be able to start businesses, small businesses. They will be able to fund their entrepreneurial objectives in this country, opening up small businesses, and this will ensure at the end of the day massive economic growth. As the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, it put out clearly that if we totally engage, if we engage women, this will enable us to move forward as a country and to ensure that this will ensure that women, this will enable women to participate in the economic growth of the country. And now, as we have said that women, for example, in Zimbabwe, we've got the Women Empowerment Bank. The Women Empowerment Bank was set up to provide cheap loans to women, and this would this facilitate that women who have a greater role to play in the economic building of the country. Right now in Zimbabwe, the only reason that we have also, as the government, decided to ensure that women should be engaged is that we have seen that there's a large percentage of women who are not contributing to the country. All right, I think you missed the graph.
Sir, the problem which we are facing panel is that there is a gendering of viewing economic growth in Zimbabwe. What we are arguing for in opening opposition is that you should not gender economic development, but you should give anyone, regardless of their gender, even if they are male or women, as long as they can see the development of the country. Answer to that.
Okay. The main reason for that is we have seen that women constitute a larger percentage of those who are financially excluded. So it would make sense that if the government tap into that populace, then it means it will boost revenue. It will boost even. Okay, no thanks. As the government, I thank you with this.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Leader of Opposition.
Yeah.
Panel, we have a very massive problem with the opening government of the day. They believe that development can only be channeled when it's gendered. And we feel that is really irrelevant in this debate. We will tell you that being a woman doesn't ensure that you have got business capabilities. Being a woman doesn't ensure that you have got the capabilities to develop a country. Panel, we are going to tell you as the opposition of the day that we believe that at first, I have to clarify this debate, right? At first, we believe at the opposition side that women do not deserve to be granted any loans specifically because they are women. We feel that we have to address issues to do with gender gaps, and we address that via gender budgeting. And we feel that gender budgeting addresses the issues to do with sources and revenues, as he had said before. And we feel that these address the gaps between gender or between male and female. And we feel that we cannot improve that by solely saying that women should be given privileges. We feel as the opposition side of the day that all people, despite of what gender you belong to, you play a critical role in the economic prosperity. And we feel that women do not specifically deserve to be granted loans just because they are women. We will tell you as the opposition of the day that we believe that gender budgeting or gender budgeting speaks to microeconomic policies. It is there to address sources of revenues, and it is there to address gaps between men and women. And we believe that as the opposition side, we are there to improve government policies and economic growth. And we don't solely believe that economic growth is only developed by giving privileges to certain people just because they are women. We feel that economic growth can only be challenged based on capabilities, not based on privilege. So our standpoint as the opposition side is we feel like the issue of economic development or the issue of development is not centered on privileges. It's centered on the capabilities of a being to channel development within a given area, right? Number two, we'll tell you that we feel that despite the economic disadvantages that women face, we feel that they are not in a position to be granted those loans just because they are women. Because we will tell you that the development of a country does not start from privilege. We feel that the development of a country begins from capabilities and motive, which is generally not related to women specifically. We feel that every citizen within a country has got the capabilities of developing despite gender. And we as the opposition side, we feel that development cannot be channeled via privilege, right? So the other issue that we have with the opening government of the day, they tell us that women are financially excluded, they don't have a bank account. Madam Speaker, here, we will tell you that we feel like that is not reason enough for us to say these women should be granted these loans. Number one, we believe that loans should be granted, number one, on capabilities and the ability to channel development. And we feel that in this instance, there are some women, just because they are women, we should grant them loans, but they do not have the capabilities to develop our country, they do not have the economic sound mind, and we feel that this is a serious gap from the opening government side. We feel that these bank loans should not be only granted just because they are women, because we have told you already that we feel that these loans should be granted on the basis of capability, not on the basis of privilege, right? So we feel that every citizen plays a critical role, Madam Speaker, as I have already alluded, pertaining the sources of revenues and the gaps between gender. We feel that every person has got a massive role towards development, and we feel that gender budgeting is there to address the macroeconomic policies, and of which the microfinance organizations or whatsoever, they belong on the microeconomic aspect, and we feel that this can be solely addressed via dealing with gender privileges, right? And as the opposition side, we also believe that to improve economic growth, we do not solely reward people based on gender. And we feel that as the opposition side, our standpoint is that being a woman doesn't ensure that you are a business person, and being a woman doesn't ensure that you have got the capabilities to channel development. With this, Madam Speaker, I will start.
Okay, I'm still deciding how to feel about that speech. So, Deputy Prime Minister.
Afternoon. Standing before you is computed like the Deputy Prime Minister of the government. I first add what has been said by my Prime Minister. In Zimbabwe, according to the latest mandate policy statement, we have about 205 microfinance, that is 199 credit only taking microfinance. Then the deposit taking micro institutions, we have about 6. That's the total is 205. So the opposition, we are not saying that women should be given access to loans. But we are saying women are the most segregated population in terms of financial services. No, thank you. The reason is most women are living in the rural areas, and so they don't have access to financial services. So the woman should be empowered so that they get access to financial services, and this will lead to economic development. And also, no, thank you. And also, the financial inclusion strategy of 2016 to 2020 targets the women who are financially excluded. So, the NGOs and the charities and other microfinances, they should give loans to the women so that they'll be empowered, which will lead to improved financial discipline and financial stability in the economy. Also, emancipation and empowerment of women will result in resource mobilization for the government, which is necessary to facilitate economic development in most parts of the country, which will lead to economic development, maybe in terms of infrastructure development, as most women are. No, thank you. In addition, these days, most women are educated in colleges and have the capacity to turn around the economic growth. So they should be exclusively empowered, as some men are already empowered. In addition, Men are financially included than...
What is wrong with using development exclusively for both men and women? Explain why it is wrong for that, for us to develop both men and women at the same time.
According to the latest census of 2012, women constitute over 51% of the total population. So, for us to have proper development, it means we have to empower most of the women. So, as the government, we recommend the empowerment of women as they constitute the total, the largest portion of the population, and this will stimulate economic growth. Thank you.
Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Posb, the most important thing that the opening government need to tell us was why exclusively we should develop and give loans to women exclusive of men. The failure to that, it justified them to give an automatic fourth, because they did not tell us why you should give women loans exclusive to men at the same time, right? So what are we going to tell you from opening opposition? As Blair already told you, we are going to give you 4 important things, 5 actually. Number 1, we are going to tell you the role of microfinance in economic development of Zimbabwe. Secondly, we are telling you the myth of exclusion, how exclusion is not a reality and how exclusion cannot succeed in economic development. Secondly, we are going to tell you the problem of identity politics, that is gendering development, using it based on gender lenses. And also, we are going to tell you how we are going to support the status quo through enhanced status quo by offering an alternative policy that was of capability versus of gender. Lastly, and we are going to tell you about why, if you continue to gender development, we are going to benefit privilege instead of benefiting people on the ground. First, okay, let's start with the role of microfinances, right? The role of microfinances is to develop the individual startup or individual entrepreneurs, the people who are on the ground and are planning to develop Zimbabwe, right? What's the problem of then giving loans exclusively to women? We tell you that startups and entrepreneurs are not made exclusive of women. What do you do if you give loans exclusively to women?